Half of the Pediasi to Acheampong stretch of the road was covered in sand and stones, narrowing the two-lane road into a single lane Wednesday morning. In 2016, the road was closed for 5 months by the Ghana Highways Authority for stabilization works on the mountain. 6 years on, the situation persists as broken wall from this house, dangerously sited at the edge of the hill, formed part of the stones and the sand washed onto the road. These motorists have grave concerns over the situation.
I think something needs to be done because usually late in the evening it's very risky and dangerous using this road. Whenever it rains, it carries a lot of things, debris onto the road, whereby it makes it uncomfortable driving through late in the evening. I think when there's something done, it will help save lives here. About 3 days ago, I encountered an accident here driving home.
It's a major problem here. Mostly when it rains, normally wash off the stones down. So we advise the residents, those people who build on the mountain, to stop it, but they refuse to. They didn't listen to advice, so they put it on. It's not even like that, though. It is washing gradually. So we are even afraid of them. One day, it will just calm down. Everything will just fall off and calm down.
And Ajua, Uba, especially said double car boss or mobile. So we are visiting driver a human because we be the speed in the sun and has it or more for the money problem. Now a bono good quan so come near dangerous as in so near bano. And your best company for say a straw no mama kwamo musi a dano and can and so no bar a bonim, but they said the Atachania born ever.
Few hours after the Joy News report, workers from the Mobile Maintenance Unit 2 of the Ghana Highways Authority were seen busily clearing the debris on the road.
Thank you for staying here on the air. I'm sure it's now time for us to go deeper into what you just heard my colleague Carlos Coloni report on, because over the years you made him make reference to a situation in 2016 which resulted in the closure of a part of the road for about 5 months. We were told that some further works will happen on the mountain. Well, today I've been joined by the Eastern Regional Minister, Mr. Acheampong, for more on this. Good morning to you, sir. Grateful that you could join us. First off, I'd just like to find out why the suspicion is that those building on the roads or along the Aburi Hills and Mountains are the ones causing these recent incidents.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you as well. Certainly, they are the immediate habitants. So every person looking for information, they are the first port of call for any researcher or news person finding out on why are we experiencing the unfortunate incidents and situations occurring on the road. And so they are the people who are there, they are the activity, they work in that environment. And so certainly they are the first port of call for anybody to find out from them. And so I believe this is the reason. Besides, it falls within a municipality that is within the Eastern region. And so typically it is a concern to all road users. The road is not necessarily for only people living in the Eastern region. It's a national road owned by the Ghana Highway Authority. And so when there is anything untoward, they are the first people we need to inform. And so when this matter happened on the Tuesday night, hurriedly, I got the Minister of Roads and Highways informed. He got in touch with the Chief Director of Ministry, and together with a team of engineers, with the Chief Executive of the Ghana Highway Authority, the highway portion where we're discussing presently falls within the Greater Accra region. In terms of road management, it is not under the Eastern region.
Okay.
How we had a team of Eastern, Greater Accra, and the national, headed by the Chief Executive, as well as the Chief Director, come to the grounds. Our facts and what we found on ground was that this was as a result of a collapse, a failed fence wall of a property up there on the mountain. and then a combination of a road construction, which is also being undertaken on the same neighborhood. The same neighborhood. And these are runoffs that the heavy downpour carried. And by the consistent and saturation nature the earth became, it was so heavy for the fence wall, and the fence wall collapsed. And how come we got all these debris coming down? So in this instance, this is not the typical sedimentary fall-offs that we used to experience with this particular mountain. But this is as a result of work in progress and at the same time, failure of structural integrity, what the engineers told us. They said they call something structural integrity, whether the structure that failed had the proper strength to survive the forces of the water that came near it. And because that did not survive, we had a failure, and that was the accident we all saw with the debris coming on the main corridor, please.
Right. Mr. Acheampong, thankfully, no life was injured or lost, but this is a disaster waiting to happen. And here's why I'm saying that, because like I mentioned earlier, over the years, we've been having this discussion. In 2019, some rocks fell again on the road, and a civil engineer, Engineer Abdullahi Mahama, said that in 2006, he foresaw this occurrence and wrote to government with a plan on how to deal with the situation. According to him, government asked that they submitted a rate, but nothing concrete was done. We've seen, even with the visuals showing now, that the stopgap measure, that's the metal fencing, have been damaged. We can see it there now. So there's also the question of maintenance. There's a question of proactiveness. And then there's a question of why we are allowing people to build on the hill and along the mountains. Because according to this civil engineer, what is happening is that they are weakening the integrity of that mountain. And he's been asking that we should not allow people to continue to build there. He says the mountains rock formation have or will be weakened over time, and this is why the water penetrates the rocks and we see the occasional breakaways.
Thank you very much. Indeed, the scientists have taught us something simple, that there is always movement within the earth that we live on. So that is common knowledge to all of us. I know practitioners, just as the engineer you just spoke about, is also a person who have science at the back of his training. So when it happens this way, we policymakers and implementers, what we do is to fall on the professionals. Indeed, there is some failure with the mesh, the metal you described. They call it a mesh. That's how the engineers call it. The mesh, which is broken now, is as a result of some heavy activity. It is being undertaken. And yesterday, when the Highway Authority engineers came over, they have taken notice of all these happenings and have promised to come to remedy them. The reason why we cannot usurp their rights and authority is that by the government arrangement and the governance effect, they are the owners of the corridor. And so everything related to it, you have to refer to them. You and I agree on transparency issues and all other concerns and respect of ownership, who must we hold responsible. So that is the essence why we refer and immediately call on them for remedy. However, you raise a very important point on settlement. Unfortunately, we have been battling this as we speak. The municipality, which is the Acheampong South municipality, is in court with 3 developers. Aside that, the Regional Coordinating Council, with advice from what we have come to inherit and we know as the engineering coordinating team, this is a meeting of all engineers in various sectors of our economy. And they are advisors to the coordinating council in respect of land use and spatial planning. And they are the ones that admonish us on how and where policy must be directed to. And so within this year, we held our maiden meeting and we made presentations in this particular enclave. Reasons are that we had already issued concerns to the Aburi Mountain in the Koforidua area, where we realized that settlement was rearing her head in that neighborhood. So we encouraged the New Durban South municipality, who is the owner of that neighborhood, to prevent future approvals, if any, came before the development committee of the assembly, so that we'll be able to control the distractions and at the same time what we call unnecessary disturbance of the vegetation. Reasons are that, like the engineer said, we've been made to appreciate that the formed ground here and then the existing ground they said is what the scientists call a sedimentary formation. So the ground we have is sedimentary. It's not like a granite rock that we see that engineers use to roll our roads. So these, when movement occurs, it is easily loosened. And so not supposed to disturb it. That is how they made us to understand and appreciate. And so in this instance, this is how we are using, first and foremost, we are governing this administration through the rule of law mechanism. And so if somebody is doing something untoward, you cannot go by your muscles because you have a bigger shoulder to muscle them out. You have to enforce the regulation, the laws. And so we have allowed the client, who is the owner of the neighborhood, the municipality, to take them on, because it is through the municipality they will come and acquire permits for development. And unfortunately, because of the high-handedness that we've been deploying in this area, people are using other methods. People come to work overnight. So we would have to double up and allow patrols by security personnel. And some come when weekends, when they know offices are not operating, because by our tradition and the culture of our work environment, most public offices do not open over the weekends.
Mr. Acheampong, sorry to cut in, but these are buildings and projects we are talking about. They can't be completed overnight. So doesn't that suggest a bit of laxity on the side of the authorities? Because it takes a while. Even if you want to build in record time, it still takes a while, right? So these are not just things we see in the snap of a finger. If someone is building overnight, it will still be progressive. So is it the case that they don't have enough logistics, or these people are using other means to, for lack of a better expression, make these persons in authority helpless? Are they using land guards? Are they using arms? Because I find it quite interesting that this will be done totally on the blind side of the authorities.
It is not being done totally on the blind side of the authority. Interestingly is the revelation. Some duly have been offered authorization through the development committee of the assembly, and others where we have realized that those grounds they are developing are formed grounds. That is how the engineers taught us to appreciate it. When they say formed grounds, when the road net corridor was being developed, remember it used to be a single carriageway. We were just two-way, we were just bypassing each other until they dualized it for us. So post the dualization, before the dualization was established, they formed some earth, and that is artificial, and that is not to be disturbed. And so adjoining grounds are not to be developed. And those are the areas we have taken people to court on. And you will agree with me, if you take people to court, the court has its own principles they work and operate within. So we cannot force the court to do the things we want done overnight. And that is how society lives and society is governed. And so we realize that by narrative, you should have some force on ground, daily brutalizing people and breaking people's properties down. But you understand your guess is as good as mine. If you don't go through the proper procedure, proper operating procedure, your genuine action and intention could go against, and you can be penalized for that on the side of the law. So you will err on the side of the law. So we are a bit cautious in our activity to stamp our authority, not to infringe on people's rights and freedoms. And so this is some of the essence why you find us slowly working. And they are community people. So sometimes you ought to engage people. They do not understand and appreciate why there's arable land and they have resources to invest and you don't want them to invest. So you need to also put a human face and engage people. Mind you, we are all in this crucible as the same family. And so sometimes you have to employ this decency in engaging people and ensuring that the right things are done. However, if people go against the law, we'll crack the whip. We don't let them go. I don't want to divulge information. We've picked up enough intelligence on the latest development, and we're going to take action drastically on people we have seen loitering around. We have cited some characters and we are going to go after them, and that is going to be part of our strategy going forward. So we get developers to understand that you cannot just come in by the whim of your own caprice and do things that we will not agree with you on.
Mr. Acheampong, we'll be wrapping up the conversation shortly, but is there any part or parcel of land along that hill or mountain that has been earmarked for non-development? Do we have anything like that on paper? No-go areas?
Yes, you see, where we have Pediase Lodge, it was established by an executive instrument, and that is the vested authority, that's the legal authority in terms of land management. And within a radius of Pediase Lodge, by national security standards, nobody is supposed to develop in that neighborhood. Some infractions have occurred, some encroachment has occurred. We are in discussions with the National Security Ministry as well as authorities to ensure that we sanitize the neighborhood. A major challenge has been traditional leadership, traditional authorities. Some vested lands have already been divulged and returned to owners in some areas. So when people see that some vested lands have been returned to original owners, they also come pushing for theirs. And this has become, forgive my language, a quagmire for us in respect of management. But we are handling it appropriately the way we ought to do as managers in this administration.
Before we introduce this conversation, my colleague Benjamin Akakpo cited the serious challenge we are encountering here in Accra along the Weija-Kaswa Highway, where similar situations on the Weija stretch where people have built in places they're not supposed to build, and it's causing a lot, especially in terms of silt that is washed down whenever it rains, causing a lot of traffic, and also the huge cracks that we see and the concern by seismologists that, look, we're sitting on a ticking time bomb. If there's an earthquake, there's going to be a disaster on our hands. I'd just like for you to tell us in the short to medium term what you're doing to prevent these rocks from, dropping onto the road, killing people. The road users are worried, especially at night when there is not enough visibility, and this could injure somebody or even kill them. What's the plan, short to medium term?
Thank you very much. Immediately after the departure of the Highway Authority and the Ministry of Roads and Highways, we in the region put ourselves together with the Disaster Management Organization, the regional leadership, and myself and the municipality. We met and went around the area where these debris were swept off. We are deploying immediate preventive education, and we are strengthening the interface on civic knowledge in respect of the built environment as we've been advised by the professionals. Again, we are also going to strengthen our arms in respect of those we have already authorized to develop, to go through certain specifications as the engineers have advised us on. If they don't meet those standards, your structures will not be approved. And where you've been allowed to stay and you're already occupying, you should also not forget about the regular maintenance of your own property. You should not just build and forget that the building will stay until thy kingdom come. It needs regular maintenance, just as our bodies require maintenance. So that is on the education bit. The next bit is a total ban. And in the last 4 years, it may interest you, since I came in, it predates me, certain decisions have been taken that no development permits are issued at the Acheampong South Municipality. These are measures we've taken in-house.
Has that been enforced?
That is why we are in court with people. That is why we keep fighting people. You may be interested and be surprised that people who have tried developing in some areas, we have blocked them, and it hasn't been easy fighting these battles. It's easy because they come at all times, and you may not be there all the time. But fortunately, the security apparatus have been real backing. They have always been available anytime we have called upon them to halt any development, carry people's property away from grounds. We haven't authorized them to bring blocks and sand and then take them away and send them to the appropriate quarters by reporting them to the police and getting them to start a prosecution over them. That's why we have 3 people in court now. It is not always easy identifying the real owners of the development. You may go and arrest the workmen, and then it takes a while to identify who the developer is. That's why I keep saying it's work in progress as well in that area. However, these are the things that we're doing. And we're going to strengthen the arm of the engineering coordinating team to also do heavy advocacy. And what they ask us to do as experts is what we are going to enforce.
Grateful for your time this morning. Seth Acheampong is Eastern Regional Minister, and we had him share some important details on what's happening along that stretch, the highway there linking Accra to the Eastern region. It's a major route, and unfortunately, over the years, we've been recording falling rocks, and quite recently it has happened again. And the big question is what we're doing to crack the whip. He offered some solutions there. We'll be keeping our eyes on the situation, then furnish you with details as and when we gather them. When I come back, I will be telling you about the Ghana Garden and Flower Show. You want to stay for this.